Welcome to Beyond the Game. Mike and Joe, what do we have on the docket for us today?
Well, good morning, boys. Starting off with NFL Week 10. What did we learn? A lot of injuries and a lot of interesting stuff going on this weekend. Then we're going to move over to the NBA and the Celtics on a tear right now. 12 straight wins. We're going to talk about what's going on over in Boston and then head over to the New York Rangers and their 6-game win streak. A big turnaround from their slow start. Joey, what's after that?
Mike, staying on campus, St. John's men's basketball, the recap of their win over New Orleans, preview of tomorrow's matchup versus Central Connecticut, and we have not seen a lot of Kasum Yakwe. Also, NCAA football, a ton of movement in the AP polls. Alabama almost lost and regains the number 1 spot. Eric Bledsoe traded to Milwaukee in the NBA. And also our Monday Night Picks. Beyond the Game episode number 22 begins right now.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the new and revamped edition of Beyond the Game, episode number 22, once broadcasted solely on the I-95 Sports Network. We are here live from St. John's University on WSJU. Mike and Joey, the main men, welcome back to the show. And we also have our own Rodney Harris calling into the studio to join us today. Guys, before we get into our show, the Beyond the Game crew would like to send our condolences and conduct a moment of silent prayer to the family of former MLB star Roy Halladay, who tragically passed away in a plane crash in the Gulf of Mexico last week. Thank you. The Beyond the Game crew would also like to thank all the veterans at home and around the globe for their service in the military. And although it's not Veterans Day anymore, we still want to give a huge shout out to our nation's heroes. Guys, jumping into our first little piece of the show, let's discuss a little bit about Roy Halladay and his amazing career in the MLB. Mike, tell me a little bit about Roy.
Well, Roy Halladay, first and foremost, Joey and I, you also, Rod, we got to grow up watching Roy Halladay pitch, being one of the elite pitchers in the MLB. 8-time All-Stars, 2 Cy Young Awards, a perfect game, a postseason no-hitter. What has that guy not done? I mean, to see what he did in Toronto, to see what he did in Philly, it's just so tragic when we heard the news that he passed away. And it's hard when you lose a big pitcher like that. And not only what he did on the diamond, but what he was able to do for the community. He was a great father from what I'm reading. I cannot always respect a family man like that.
Yeah, and going back what you said, the 2010 season, I'm pretty young, guys, a lot younger than you guys, and I was big into video games. So when I was playing MLB 2K10, he was on the cover, and I would literally play as the Phillies every single time just to pitch with Roy, and he was so dominant. But going over into, reality, in that 2010 season, he went 21-10 with a 2.44 ERA, and he even threw that first postseason no-hitter in his entire career. Joey, what do you have to say about Roy?
Well, Doc Halladay, his nickname, of course, being Doc, it hurt me when I saw that. Well, actually, it was funny, Mike. You, me, and Rod, actually, we have a group message together, and you actually said it. That Doc had died, and it was like I thought you were joking with me. He's 40 years old. The man is 40. He's had shoulder issues, but I did not expect him to pass so sudden. It really hurt me. I idolized that man. Him being on the rubber all the time. And playing such a big role in a lot of young and up-and-coming pitchers' lives. The way that he did it, his leadership in the clubhouse, from what I've heard, I have a few scouts that I know from or who worked with Roy Halladay. he's going to be missed, especially in Toronto. I would not be surprised if the number 32 will never be worn again in Canada. Rod, your take on Doc?
Well, I was at a loss for words when I got the information. I was like, wow, this man's 40 years old, 16 years of experience in MLB, and how dominant he was starting out his career, getting his first start with Toronto in 1999 and all the way to the end of his career in 2013 was amazing. And he started off, as every young pitcher started off a little shaky, then got it together and really showed his dominance. Those two Cy Young years were crazy dominant for him. 2003 was that's where we made his stamp on a league, 22 wins and 7 losses. And then we said, this guy has it. He is going to be great. And he was the lead all throughout those years. And went over to the Phillies and was the lead again. And it's just a great person, great father, like Mike said, from what we were reading, from what we had heard from his wife. He's a great person, great father, and just a humble guy. Very, very quiet. You never heard a bad thing about Roy. He was just that guy, that perfect person you want as a professional athlete, and someone that you can look up to for your kids and for young people like us watching baseball growing up. That's the perfect person to watch and the perfect person to look up to. He's gonna be greatly missed.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And something that a lot of people were saying too, Mike and Alec, TMZ came out with a video from some boaters down in the Gulf, and they saw it crash.
Wow.
The plane was in pieces. It was very.
It was a graphic video.
It really was a graphic video, and that's why it took me a couple of seconds to really figure out the words to put in there. Thank you, Mike, for saying that. Apparently he was, there's a lot of stuff going on that he was doing that for a little bit and playing around with the plane, but he was very humbled to own a pilot's license and to be one of the first few people to fly that specific plane. He finishes his career and ends his life with a 203 win ratio, 203 and 105, and a career ERA of 3.38 with 2,117 strikeouts. He was an 8-time All-Star, 2-time Cy Young Award winner. He also, let's not forget, he pitched a perfect game in May 29th, on May 29th, 2010, for the Phillies, and then obviously, as Alec noted earlier, he had a postseason no-hitter on October 6th, and he was one of the first few people since Don Larson did that in 1955.
Yeah, just a big feat accomplished by Halladay, and you look at what he did in Toronto and how well he played there, and then to trade him to the Phillies and for him to win the Cy Young the following season, it was like, all right, this man still had a message to prove, and that was the type of player it seemed like Roy Halladay was. He was a winner. He's eligible for the Hall of Fame in 2019, and I'm going to tell you here first, I think he should get in right away.
Most definitely.
I don't want to say that because he passed away. I think just from what he was able to accomplish as a pitcher, it's hard to not have him as a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my eyes. I don't know what...
I agree. I don't know so much about first ballot Hall of Famer because with baseball it's very, very, very difficult. To get these players in. I mean, there have been times when, you look at certain guys like Mike Piazza. He got in. Yes, he was a first ballot. If I'm not mistaken, Rod, was he? I don't know off the top of my head. You know better than I do.
I don't think he got in right away.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. I don't believe
he was on the ballot for about a year. He waited. It was like he was on the ballot for the first time. He didn't get in. Then he got in the second time.
Right, and that's the whole thing to me is that for someone of that caliber, such as Mike Piazza, he had to wait a few years. I think that Doc is going to have to wait a few years regardless.
Randy Johnson
of his death. Yeah,
got in first ballot.
He did.
I
believe
could see
he did.
Roy getting
Yeah.
it. But he might have to wait a year.
Well,
but,
the one thing and the one
by
thing
2020.
Well,
I want that man in the Hall
right.
of Fame.
But the one thing that Doc is missing is that World Series ring. I like I said, I believe that he will be donning the Blue Jays cap in the Hall of Fame, Alec, for sure.
Most definitely, and he will certainly be missed. Shooting over to our first segment on Beyond the Game, we'll be discussing NFL Week 10 weekend. And I'm starting this out with a Thursday Night Football fumble that was turned over by Andre Ellington. Guys, in the second quarter, Ellington makes the catch at Seattle's 31-yard line. He then picks up a full 6 yards before stumbling down without being touched. And then the referees ruled it as an incomplete catch. Give me some of your opinions on this crazy call.
Bush League. The referees, in my eyes, they're getting worse.
Forget about the refs. It comes down to the catch rule. What is going on with the catch rule, and why can't they figure this thing out? Continue. I think it's not even just the referees. These are going to the head of officiating for them to look at this, and they're getting the calls completely messed up.
And it seems as if they're missing Dean Blandino a lot more than...
I don't think they're missing Dean Blandino.
I can tell you right now, Alberto Riveron, he sure as hell is not doing...
I don't think any of them have done well. Look, the issue with the catch rule is if you're going to the ground, you have to, while making the catch, you have to secure the ball. So looking at this Ellington play, it's on repeat in front of me. He takes 3 steps as he's catching the ball. But then when he puts his hand down to try to pick himself up, in my eyes, that's a football move. And when you make a football move after the catch, then you're no longer, then you've already established that you've made a catch. And that's what I consider him putting his hand down to try to get himself a few more yards or prevent himself from stumbling and falling down. In my eyes, that's a football move. I think this is a horrible call. They have to fix the catch rule because it's not even like if it's a catch or not. This is common sense, a catch and fumble. I mean, in my eyes, in anyone's eyes, you would watch this play and you'd say catch and fumble. And this rule is just horrible. It's ruining the NFL. It's just, if you're going to make a rule like that, change it to college where if you're down, then you're just down. They can't have this whole, if you're falling to the ground, they make the rules so confusing for something that you're watching and you're like, well, that's a catch and a fumble.
Well, it's very funny that you say that because there were a few other times in games yesterday, such as Dak Prescott. There was in the Atlanta and Dallas game, there was a fumble that could have been something similar to the tuck rule, and they were saying that yesterday on the broadcast as well, saying that watch for the possible call of maybe a tuck rule issue. Trying to alert Tom Brady, virtually and saying, hey, this is exactly what happened with you, 15 years ago, sorry. But, the rules, like I said, I don't know. I think that the way the league is being officiated now is an absolute disaster. And it all starts with that AndreEllington.
But the catch rule in general is such a big issue
exactly,
in the NFL.
Yeah. Rod, what do you got to say about Andre?
This rule has been getting on my nerves since Des Bryant. And
since Calvin Johnson.
Right, yes.
I can't take it anymore. We need to figure out, in the NFL, I won't say we because I'm not a part of the NFL's front office, they need to figure out what is going on with rules. Every year I feel like there's a new rule that comes up out of nowhere that nobody has ever heard of before or has never been called. Or they change the rule or they tweak the rule. If he's down, he's down. If it's a catch, it's a catch. If he fumbled, he fumbled. Now the man stumbled. He made a, like you said, the key words, football move. That's a football play. He put his hand down, trying to get back up. Oh, sorry, I fell down, fumbled the football. That's a football play. How is that an incomplete pass? My mind is, I can't wrap my head around it. I don't get it. I grew up playing Pee-wee, and I grew up playing football up until I was 16 years old. Anytime you catch the football and you take about 2 or 3 steps, that's a catch. You happen to drop the ball after that next step. That's a fumble.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that would be considered an incomplete pass. How? I don't understand. They really need to go back and fix these rules. The rules are ruining the game. It's not football anymore. I just can't stand it. I'm fed up with the NFL and the rule changes.
Well, it's very funny that you say that because if we do look at the exact numbers of the NFL's viewership, it's down 25%, and it's really been noticeable this year with a lot of viewership going down. NFL Sunday ticket packages are being canceled, let alone from the anthem, and I'm not trying to get into that, but A lot of it has to do with obviously with the anthem, but also there are some fans out there that are just getting fed up with the league in general. The way that things
No fun league.
Yeah, it's and you know what, and that's exactly what Antonio Brown has said in the past. But I believe that this is going to that if this continues to be an issue with officiating and just overall issues in general with the way that the game is played, the viewership's just going to keep going down, and something next, obviously, Alec, that remains on the other side of the football back in Thursday Night Football was with the Seahawks.
Yeah, and that huge hit on Russell Wilson, and then they bring him out for what, one play?
No, they didn't even bring him out.
They didn't even bring him out?
They didn't even bring him out, and that's a problem.
He ran into the concussion tent and ran literally right back
Yeah.
out. It was like they didn't check him for anything. Now look, he got hit. It was under his chin strap,
Right
kind of
under
like
his
right
jaw.
under his jaw. Look, whether you're concussed or not, and I'm sure, look, he was fine to finish the game. You look at him, there's no concussion, there's no talks of a concussion now. You look at it now, you're like, okay, he's fine. I'm glad he's fine. But at the time, with everything going on, you have to look. I mean, your league is getting sued left and right from former players because of CTE and all these concussion-related illnesses that are happening. And then one of your star players, in Russell Wilson, gets hit like that, and you barely even check him now. Yes, he's okay, like I said, but at the same time, now the Seahawks are going to get fined for that because that's a big issue. Because the NFL does not want to have to deal with all these outside problems that they're dealing with all of a sudden with concussions. And then when something like this happens, then it becomes a topic of conversation. And they don't want it to be in the front of the news. They don't want that to be a topic of conversation.
Well,
it's not a good look for them.
And you're 100% right, Mike. But the whole thing that I have a problem with is that if you look now, and again, I don't like to bring up the Cowboys and the Falcons game, but a lot came out of it that has to do with what we're discussing today. Devonta Freeman was taken out yesterday by Ed Hockley, basically the number one referee in the entire league, and that's not by favoritism, that's not for whatever, that is his ranking, is the number one referee. Now, he said to Devonta Freeman, because he was wobbly, there's no doubt about it, he came up rumbling and stumbling, as from the words of Chris Berman, and a completely different meaning. He was really, woozy, okay? He went directly to the tent, the neurologist went in there, and he had to go right into the locker room. Now, exactly what you said, Mike, is that, the league doesn't want to get sued left and right. I don't know how you can blame the Seahawks for that, because they had a brand new rule with this blue tent. Am I right? A brand new rule, and the neurologist...
Week 10.
I'm sorry?
It's week 10, though.
It's
not week,
Okay. That's the whole thing.
It's been going on all
That's
all
what
year.
I'm saying.
So why...
That's what I'm saying, and that's why I don't know if I could fully blame the Seahawks because...
For what reason?
Because
they failed to evaluate their player.
No, yes.
So how does it fall on anybody else?
It falls on the officiating.
For what? Why does it fall on them?
Because the neurologist...
If the officiating didn't know... Hold on, Rod. If the officiating crew didn't notice he was wobbling because he wasn't concussed, then they have no reason to believe that when he went into the tent that the Seahawks didn't do their job.
They have to
it
do a better...
falls on the Seahawks.
Yeah, but they have to do their job. No, they have to do a better job. They have to do a better job as far as looking out for injured players, because you know what?
But if he's not showing any signs, and he was cleared by the team in their minds, they're not going to do anything. That's not their job.
No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rod.
To Joe's point, for instance, in soccer, my father-in-law is a soccer referee. When a player is hurt and it's a head injury, for instance, he had a player fall on the back of his head yesterday, hit the goalpost. The coach is yelling, "Get up," and let the kid keep running. The kid is wobbling up the field. My father-in-law blows the whistle. He checks the kid out. Waves it, blows the whistle, tells the coach, "Come onto the field. I'm pulling this card. He's out of the game. Concussion protocol."
And that's great. And if Wilson was wobbling on the field, then I'm sure the referee would have said something. But in this case, he wasn't. He was fine because he continued to play the game at a high level, and then came right back out. So why is the officiating crew going to stop him?
Because the new rule states that the neurologist has to check out the player, and the neurologist was not even anywhere in sight. That's the problem, and that's why I'm saying that it should not go on the Seahawks. Because guess what? Maybe a little bit can go on the Seahawks.
What do you
a
mean?
Little bit.
How could it not go on the team? It's the team's job to protect its players.
It is, and also it's the league's job.
If you're my boss and I get hurt on the job, you have to make sure I'm okay.
It's the league's job to also.
It's end of discussion. It's
No,
just common
it's not.
sense.
It's not. The league's job is also to check out their players as well. Yes, it is the team's players.
But the
It is
team,
the team,
if the
but
team
also
checked
it's
and the team
league's.
cleared in the referee's eyes, because the ref is not going to sit there.
But that's
and
where
watch.
the new
Wilson
rule comes
back
in.
out.
That's where the new rule comes in, is that the neurologist is the one who has to clear it, not the team.
Can I put
That's
this
the
on
problem.
somebody else?
That's the problem, is that the neurologist was nowhere to be found. Go ahead, Rod.
I'm going to put this on Russell Wilson. If you know your bell is wrong, take a seat. Don't go back out there.
Nah, you can't blow it on him, too.
Your bell is wrong. Take a knee and get off the field. I've had my bell wrong before. Trust me. When your bell is wrong, you know.
Yeah, I've had a concussion before.
Lay down.
Yes.
Just sit down. Don't get up. Get off the field. It's not the Seahawks. It's not the league. Russell Wilson.
But he felt fine. If he felt fine to go back
that's
in the game, he's going to
right.
go back in the game.
Right.
Rod. I mean, you can't blame the player.
No.
If I get hit hard and my bell is wrong, let's say I get hit hard, but I'm like, okay, I was just hit hard. I'm okay. I'm going to go back in the game. Why am I going to take a seat? I love this sport. I'm getting millions to play it.
How much you love the sport. And trust me.
But if you're in no pain and you don't feel anything, why are you going to take a seat?
Hit on your chin hard enough. You know I'm feeling a little woozy right now.
But he wasn't. He went back in the game.
Just maybe.
If he was woozy, he would have sat down, right? If he did not feel well enough to go in the game, he would have sat down.
He messed up, so he went back out there.
He felt that he was okay to go back out. So if he was woozy, he would have sat down.
Back out.
Okay, listen.
Blaming the Seahawks.
To Mike's point, to Mike's
the
point,
team
hold
has
on.
to check its player before the player can go
As
back out.
does the neurologist, but we're
As
gonna,
does the neurologist, but
we're
it's
gonna-
not on the officiating.
But we're gonna
It's
have to.
on-
We're gonna have
it's
to
on-
move. Well,
It's on the Seahawks for not making sure that their player was checked out by the neurologist.
Well-
End of discussion.
Oh.
In my mind, end of discussion. The team has to protect its own player.
and the league has to protect its players as
league has
well,
to
because
protect
they are
itself.
the one. They are also the ones that are getting sued. Something that I want to bring up as well is that Sean Lee of the Dallas Cowboys, he had a hamstring injury and he was walking all across his sideline trying to get back in, but the team doctors said no. Alec, let's move on.
Thank God I was sitting in, like right in between you guys, because that could have ended bad. But Beyond the Game crew is going to be moving over to a quick break, but when we get back, we'll be discussing about Kyrie Irving and the Boston Celtics, about their 12-game win streak. You're not going to want to miss it. We will be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Beyond the Game, episode number 22. Little bit of breaking news in the NFL. The Eagles signed linebacker Donnell Ellerbe and waived cornerback Dexter McDougal. Shooting over to Miami, the Dolphins. TJ McDonald is now active from an 8-game suspension. Anything you want to say about that, or let it go?
Well, no. I know what I want to say is for the Eagles, because they're my
Well,
team.
that's what I was gonna ask, yeah.
Let's start with that. Obviously, that means that Ronald Darby's back. That means that we're getting a little healthier, and let's get your popcorn ready for Dallas. Should be tons of fun. And TJ McDonald, the Dolphins, they're still going to lose tonight to the Panthers. But yeah, I think that's really all I have there. Guys, anything you guys want to say? Rod, Mike?
Yeah, I think that the Ellerbe signing was a good move for the Eagles. Just another piece, another veteran to add to that. It's a younger team. Someone to get them over that hump. And look, they're pushing for a Super Bowl this year. At the rate they're going, they're on pace for it. So it's a very smart move, I think.
Don't make me cry
by the
now.
Eagles.
Don't make me cry now.
Um,
Don't make me cry now.
As far as TJ McDonald, I mean, that's big for Miami. I don't think they're as good of a position as the Eagles to do anything in the near future. But I think the Dolphins having McDonald back, he's a good safety. They're giving him a good amount of money for 4 years, so he better show up and play well for that team and Adam Gase down there in Miami. That's really all I have to say on that.
Anything for you, Rod?
Yeah, I just say the Eagles are stacked. They're stacked up. They're ready to go. And like I said before, fly Eagles fly.
And moving on to the Celtics.
Yeah, shooting over to our next segment, we have Kyrie Irving quieting the critics after telling the media.
To explicit. Let's go with that.
That's right. But ever since then, they have not lost a game. Guys, do you think the Celtics actually get it done in the East with no Hayward?
Well, I'm not gonna stick with my original prediction. My original prediction was either the 7 or the 8 seed. Now they've won 12 in a row. They are on fire. There's no doubt about it that they are. They are playing so well, and I believe that they would be playing even better with Gordon Hayward. Now, Rod, you being the Celtics hater, obviously, as we both are, Lakers fans. It's they have the Nets and they have the Warriors within the next 3 days, the next 2 games. So I think that the way that they've played really well ever since Kyrie Irving has said that. There was a lot of talk in the beginning when they lost to the Bucks, they lost to the Cavs, that there was a possibility that maybe they had a little bit of trouble. Jason Tatum hurt. He's now back in the lineup, so we'll see what happens. I think that I still believe that it's going to be a hard-fought battle down the road. But the Cavs are still the team to beat in my eyes, Rod.
Yeah, you're right. Even though the Cavs are struggling right now, it's really hard to not pick the Cavaliers to come out of the East. You can't ever count out LeBron James, and you can't count out when Isaiah Thomas comes back, how he's going to play and react to the injuries and try to get back into basketball form. But the Boston Celtics have been rolling. They're averaging 102 points per game. They're holding their opponents to only 94 points per game, and they're on a 12-game win streak. This team is right now as young as they have ever been, and they're playing like a cohesive unit without Gordon Hayward. They won last night against Toronto without Kyrie Irving.
And they also and
a small facial fracture, and Kyrie Irving will be back soon. But to do that without Kyrie, and you still held off one of the better teams in the East, that's great. That goes to show you that they're coached well. They're doing a great job. They're playing with such confidence right now. And I think that was all started by Kyrie. Once you saw Gordon Hayward go down, Kyrie probably had a meeting with all of them saying that, look, we need to keep this together. We lost one, but we're going to win it for him. Let's play together. Let's make this work. And Kyrie is taking over and taking control of this game, taking control of this team. And they can make a run in the East, but you can't count out the Cavaliers just yet. I won't say they're the best team in the East. I'll just say we'll see during playoff time how it all plays out.
And that's you bring up the perfect point, because that's actually what I was about to say, is that take a peek in April, May, and June, because that's the time that the Cavs shine as per usual. So that's exactly why I said that they're the team to beat. So the Celtics are doing great. They're on a 12-game winning streak after starting 0-2. They are still, in my opinion, going to finish right behind the Cavs, as they should win the East.
I mean,
as per usual.
They could beat the Cavs. Look, the Cavs have been struggling. They're the Cavs. They'll go on a run at some point. But look, the way the Celtics have been playing, and then on top of, I don't know how Irving's going to play after. He's going to have a mask on now that he's back because he fractured his face from a teammate. You think he'll be okay?
He should be fine. Yeah, he should be fine. Yeah.
All right, so he'll be good with that. Then you have to look at the big piece, which you guys haven't mentioned, Al Horford, who has rejuvenated. I need some of whatever he's drinking because he looks young, he looks fresh, and he looks really good. And I think that's been a huge part of this winning streak. Yes, he missed a couple games with a concussion, but he came back, shot 8 of 9 and had 21 points against Toronto. So he's looked good. But you're right. I mean, the big challenge, I think, they have the Nets tomorrow, and then Thursday, I believe they're playing
the Warriors. At home,
that
thankfully.
Should be a fun contest, and that's going to be a real test of what this team can do against very, very talented teams in the NBA. That should be a fun one on Thursday, and that, I think, for me, would be a big test as to how this team is going to be down the line.
As soon as Hayward went down in the season opener, I didn't even know who was going to, step up and really take over his position, but because I thought, they lost way too much to the Cavs. But what I really saw was Jaylen Brown and even Terry Rozier. I mean, he's been averaging, a little bit around 15 points in the last 3 games, and especially when Kyrie,
Terry
was out.
Rozier has been averaging 10.3 points per game, along with 5.4 rebounds. He's been doing pretty well. Jaylen Brown, he's been a surprise. He's been doing really well. 14.7.
To me has been Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
Steal in this draft for the Celtics. He's averaging 13 points a game. He's shooting 47% from three-point land, 82% from the free throw line, and 48% from field goal range. This kid has been spectacular for them since Gordon Hayward went down. So you add all those pieces that we just said together, you have a cohesive unit, and they can make a run. They can, but I'm not counting out the Celtics. I'm not counting out the Cavaliers.
You hit
You shouldn't.
hit it right
You can't
on the
count
head,
out
Rod.
the Cavs,
No
yeah.
doubt about it. Yeah.
It's a little too early to tell with the Celtics, but shooting over to our next segment, the New York Rangers are on a 6-game winning streak.
Oh, vomit. Go on. Sorry, I just
Why?
I just had
So
to get that
rude.
out there. I know.
Guys, how are they doing it?
He's not that ugly. No, I'm kidding.
You talking about Kevin Shattenkirk, right?
Mike, I want to ask you.
I am excited. We're winning games, but I still am not convinced that this is a team that could win anything more than a few games this season. Look, 6 games is fun, but that Metropolitan Division is just really, really good. Got a lot of good players in there. I'm glad the Rangers are playing well. It's a lot better than watching them lose like they were doing in the beginning of the season. Zibanejad has been playing well this year, and that's been nice. But really, I mean, look, I still think that they have work to do. They're not fully together, but they are playing smart, and I think that has to do with Coach Alain Vigneault and what he's been able to do as far as lines. He's been doing a good job making sure he's putting consistent players on the same line together, switching up the lineups based on what's going on in the game, and finding the best way to utilize his skaters. And I think for that, it's helping the team out. And we know he's a good coach. We've seen his track record of successful teams.
He's missing one thing, though.
And what's that, Joey?
That is the Stanley Cup.
That's just
He
true.
brought the Vancouver Canucks to the playoffs year after year after year.
With, like,
He
the
brought
top team. It was
the top
crazy.
team, exactly right. And he could never get it done. It reminds me a lot of my second favorite team, the San Jose Sharks, and it hurts. It hurts, and I'm sure, and I knew it, as soon as the Rangers signed him years ago, that he was going to, yes, get to the Cup final at some point. I was really hoping that they wouldn't win, and thankfully, I was blessed with a loss in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup Final 2014. But, besides the point, going back to what it is now, the New York Rangers, they have done really well. Give credit to Vigneault for sure, but the main man that I want to give credit to is assistant coach Lindy Ruff. Okay, Lindy Ruff has gone through a ton of of rough patches in Dallas. He's done one of the best coaches in history with the Buffalo Sabres. He has led them to playoffs after playoffs after playoffs, but just could not get the big prize. The Metropolitan Division, Mike, exactly what you were saying, is only separated by 4 total points, and 6 teams, New Jersey, Columbus, Washington, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and the Rangers round out the top 6. And it's funny, the wild card for both Pittsburgh and the Islanders, they both occupy the first and second wild card. This Metropolitan Division is no joke. So you're 100% right. The Rangers are. I believe that they're going to fight to be in the playoffs. I think that if they make a move down the stretch by the trade deadline for another center, they will be. David Desharnais is not the answer. Moving Jesper Fast over and stuff like that, it just does not work. And losing Derek Stepan, for cap reasons, I believe it hurts them. It hurt them for sure. So we'll see what happens, Alec. And your Rangers, let's hear about this.
My good old New York Rangers. Mike, one more question for you. The New York Rangers have the 3rd longest NHL postseason appearance streak, which is 7 seasons. Do you think our Rangers are going to end up snapping this streak?
What kind of fan would I be if I said...
There you go.
Of course they're going to keep the streak going. I just don't think they're a Stanley Cup championship team, but I'll take a playoff appearance any day over than hockey ending early in the spring. That's no fun.
I'm going to tell you something right now. Let's look at the Detroit Red Wings. Okay? The Red Wings were in the playoffs for 25 straight years, ever since you and I were born, and Alec, as soon as he was born already. He was born already, right? He was born already, and they were still making the playoffs. I believe that this year it comes to an end, Rod.
Yeah, I don't know if it comes to an end just yet. I won't put that on the Rangers, but right now the Rangers are ranked 7th in goals per game with 3.3. Goals against, they're ranked 24th with 3.2. Power play percentage, they're ranked 3rd with 25.8. And penalty kill, they're ranked 13th with 81.4%. I have to say that the Rangers they're a very weird team to me, where they can get hot as of right now, and then they can drop the next 5. You know, it's one of those things where they have to figure out what their identity is, and when they do, they can get rolling. And as we see, they're rolling down. So maybe they're starting to find their identity and what kind of hockey team they want to be. I can definitely see them making the playoffs, even though this Metropolitan Division is very, very, very strong. It's going to be very tough. The Islanders out there, we talk about Pittsburgh, Washington, Columbus, New Jersey. Well, look at what New Jersey's doing this season. 11
My sleeper team, and I believe that I did say that in the beginning, that watch for them being a threat, and they lead the Metro Division with 24 points. Rod, going to your point quickly, and I want to get back to you, I just want to say one quick thing. I think that the Rangers will make the playoffs if they make a move down the stretch. They will not make the playoffs if they keep the team the same. Continue.
Yeah, they have to make a move down the stretch. You have to figure out what you're going to do to really make noise inside this Metropolitan Division. It's very hard. I'm very shocked at a lot of different players in this division, especially Taylor Hall coming over from Edmonton and actually really making a name for himself here in New Jersey was a big shocker for me. It's actually giving him like some shine. But there's one of these players that you have to look out for in this division. I don't know if the Rangers have enough to answer the attack of a player like him, such as Sidney Crosby, and also Ovechkin in that division with them. So I'm looking to see if the Rangers have what it takes to go against these top-level teams. And like you said, making moves down the stretch will definitely help the team out later in the long run. Maybe helping yourself out, like you said, in the centerman position. Also helping out on your defensive line. I see a lot of different holes here and there with the Rangers, but I do believe that they have what it takes to make the playoffs. I don't know if they have what it takes to make a deep run into the playoffs.
I mean, we're obviously going to have to see what the NHL season holds for the New York Rangers. Guys, we're going to be shooting over to a quick break, but when we get back, we will be discussing about St. John's men's basketball and Kasum Yakwe. And we're also going to go into some NCAA football. We have a lot to say, and you are not going to want to miss what we have to say. Welcome back to Beyond the Game, episode number 22. Thank you for tuning in with us over that quick short break. We're jumping right into some St. John's men's basketball. A little bit about their recap win over New Orleans. Guys, pretty good outing from the Red Storm, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt about it, and obviously Mike was on the call. Mike, Kevin Connolly, and Rodney Harris were on the call with that one. Really a good matchup. I was actually working that game down low with stats and everything like that. They were choppy in the beginning. There's no doubt about it. Rod, you were on call for that game. Tell me your thoughts. Yeah, Michigan State and Arizona, yeah. Yeah,
exactly what you were saying, and being right there with you while you guys, while we were, watching the game, we saw a lot from the 5 starters for St. John's, but not a lot from their bench. And you mentioned Justin Simon and Marvin Clark and their transfer students and their impact, and that was the big question mark coming into the season. How are they going to play? But my question going into the game was, how are Shamori and Marcus going to play now that they have other people they could really rely on to get themselves going offensively? And that is what I was impressed with, because Levette came out there, and Levette's a personality to begin with. You mentioned he's all over the floor. That's just how he is. Even during practice, he's hugging Mullen from behind. I mean, that's just the type of guy that you're getting on the court with Levette. 23 points you mentioned. He really showed up to play, and that's what I wanted to see from him and Pons. Was there's a lot of hype going in because of Simon and Clark, but we can't forget that this was the number 2 freshman backcourt behind Darren Fox and Malik Monk in Kentucky last season. So what they were able to do and show is that they're still capable of putting up these high numbers in these games, even though there are Justin Simon and Marvin Clark there to help out. But another thing that we're going to get into is the lack of playing from Kasum Yakwe. And that was the big shocker for me, because I did not expect him to not have a shot and only play 8 minutes of total game time. That was a surprise for me, especially as a guy who's really good defensively. But then again, I look at how Tariq Owens played, and he's a guy that's not going to get a lot of talk, but he looked really good defensively. He was back on defense every time, played aggressive, got a few blocks in the game, and he really played well, I thought, defensively, allowing Yakwe to stay on the bench, Joey.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
That too, but on top of that, I mean, just wasn't performing anyway.
Well, and no pun intended when you say by storm. But the whole thing that I want to bring up is that something that Mike, that you had said that, with the other pieces coming in with, how is Shamori and Marcus, how are they going to fare with more offense coming in with Marvin Clark and with Justin Simon, and also with Bashir Ahmed coming in for a full senior season. I think that to answer your question, or really, like I said, to answer your question, I think that these guys are going to actually perform better this year with those guys around them. The assist totals, you look at Shamori Pons, 6 assists just in this game alone. He had 573 points last season. He recorded the rookie total, or excuse me, broke the rookie total of 573 points in for a freshman in his first year playing. I don't think that he's going to get that or as many points as he will. I think that the assist total is going to rack up this year for Shamori, and he's going to be more like an NBA point guard, where his assist totals are going to be through the roof, and it's going to be Levette, Marvin Clark, and also Justin Simon. I would not be surprised if Bashir Ahmed also is going to be getting a ton of the looks as well. You look at Marvin Clark, the last 3 games, including the 2 exhibition games, he's gotten double-digit points. This man is a force to be reckoned with, for sure, and Michigan State, yes, he did break the freshman record of playing in all 39 games in their run to the Final Four 3 years ago. I think that they're going to miss him, and I think that St. John's is going to benefit from it, from some of the mistakes that Michigan State had with him.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, it was how are Pons and Levette going to play, and it showed that they're still exactly what you just said. They're still the 2 main guys on this offense, on this team. Pons 15 shots, Levette 14 shots. I mean, they outshot every other person, nearly double the shots of Ahmed. They had more than 10. I mean, Clark and Simon only had 6 shots, so they were playing more of a complementary role to Pons and Levette. And on top of Levette's 23 points was great, and Pons' 12 gets a little overshadowed there, but he also led the team in rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
This is your point guard. So he was all over the place, 6 defensive rebounds. He was getting back, getting the ball. He played really well. I think the team chemistry this year was what we wanted to see, and I think this team seems very close. They were very happy. They had a lot of laughs and stuff going on in practice, which gives you confidence that they can make a big push or be a force to reckon with in the Big East.
I think that, and I want to get back to Rod and Alec with this, but one more thing that I want to mention, because, like I said, I work with the in athletic communications and very close with the basketball team. Something that Chris Mullen has said in the past is that they're playing small ball this year. Their starters are not going to contain Tariq Owens and Kasum Yakwe. Their starters are Levette, Clark, Pons, Ahmed, and Simon, and the tallest man on that team is Ahmed and Clark at 6'7". So once they get down the stretch of playing teams like Seton Hall, where they have to face Angel Delgado, you're going to see Tariq Owens, face him and probably be in
you'll
the
see
starting lineups for
Yakwe
sure.
get more time too,
right.
if he can stay out of foul trouble.
Exactly, and something that, Mike, that you said too is that they have a lot more, I say, depth this year than they did last year, even with 2 to 3 less players than last year. Obviously, with Federico Bassini leaving, their 3-point specialist, Darian Williams, a few other guys.
The starting 5 is night and day
Yeah.
better than it was last season.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Yeah, and like I said though, it's just they're playing small. They do need some bigs. They also just signed a national letter of intent. Excuse me, I cannot get my words out there. Josh Roberts. He is a man who's going to be 6'7" to join Sadiq Keita and CD Keita and Mikey Dixon from Quinnipiac. So hopefully good stuff moving forward. Rod, anything you want to add with that? $23 minutes, yes.
I'm feeling it that this year the Big East is going to be a completely revamped edition of the Big East. I think teams are just so much more athletic in this conference now, and I think it's really going to show in the tournament when tournament season comes around.
Watch out, Villanova. It's coming tomorrow night, Central Connecticut and St. John's on FS2. Should be fun, Alec. I'll be there. You'll be on board for the game. Should be tons of fun. Hopefully St. John's gets their second win in non-conference play.
We'll see how it goes. Moving over to our next segment is NCAA football. Ohio State demolishes Michigan State. Joey, let me ask you, is Ohio State a pretender or a contender?
Pretender.
Go on. Simple as that?
Well, listen, I mean, Ohio State... J.T. Barrett, we had this conversation a few weeks ago where J.T. Barrett had 3 interceptions. He absolutely demolished his Heisman chances. He crushed it, and when I say he crushed it, he did it himself. He destroyed the Ohio State possibility of getting in the college football playoff. They'll be good. Maybe in the Big Ten championship if they make it there. I don't see them making it there. Wisconsin has their number.
Yeah, I think with Ohio State, I'm going to call them a pretender also. I'm with you, Joey. Look, big win for sure against Michigan State. You can't take away what they did. Their whole team showed up. Defensively, they looked really good. Their running game was good. Mike Weber and J.K. Dobbins both running well there. But look, when you lose to Iowa the way that they did, there is no way that I could say that they're contenders. No contending team gets destroyed like that against Iowa. I mean, they did not show
That's
up
what
to
I'm
play.
saying,
They
yeah,
looked really
it's-
bad. You're right about JT Barrett. I think JT Barrett's a great quarterback, and I think he could play really well. Give him the right pieces around him, and he'll be effective wherever
He's
he
got to
plays.
get
But
out of his
he's-
own way also.
That's true too, and injuries plagued him a little bit in his career with Ohio State. But I think they're pretenders. I just don't. They're just better teams out there than Ohio State. They're good, but they're not what they were a few years ago with Joey Bosa on that defense.
Rod, what do you think? Guys, how about Auburn defeating Georgia 40-17 this past weekend? Any thoughts on that, Joey?
I don't think that's a slip up, Mike. I don't think that's a slip up. I think that is a telltale sign of what's going to happen if they in fact make a playoff appearance. And just by looking at the polls right now, Georgia went from number 1 all the way to number 7. They are not in line to make the playoff. That was a brutal loss, and Auburn, they're ahead of them in the rankings. Good for Auburn. There's no doubt about it, because really they've fallen off the map ever since Cam Newton left them.
All right, I still think they're contenders. Look, they were the number 1 team for so many weeks this season. They're really, really talented. You know what? Yes, they collapsed in the second half against Georgia Tech, but look, in the grand scheme of things, they're a great team. They have that running attack that teams wish they had. Nick Chubb has looked really good this year. There are talks about their running being as good as what we see in Penn State with Saquon Barkley. So, look, I have to say it's a tough loss for them, but for me, in my eyes, I still think they're contenders. I still think they have a really good program there down in Georgia.
I think that they do have like I said, I don't know how to really say if they're something that we spoke about over the break.
It's not like they lost to. They lost to Auburn.
Pretender,
it's not like
if you will.
It's not like Auburn's a bad team. They're top 10. Look at what are they ranked at now? Where they moved?
Georgia, number 7.
No, not Georgia. Auburn. They
6.
moved from 9 to 6.
6. They're one ahead of Georgia.
You can't look at this Georgia team and be like, oh, you lost to some scrub. You know, they lost to a top 10 team. So.
They
I
did.
still think
they did, but they didn't lose. They didn't lose 31-24 like how Alabama almost, like how they pulled out their win. They lost 40-17. There was a wide margin of a loss. That's the problem. Is that, my goodness, if where is your defense? I get that college football's defense is, it's not like the NFL where it's, obviously great. These teams score as many points as they can because it goes toward their AP and USA Today poll. That's what it does. Rod, I want to hear your thoughts about this. Right. They didn't stop. They didn't stop. They kept going and going and going and going. They beat a dead horse to death. Wow.
you. I mean, yeah, if you. You think Georgia and Wisconsin, if they played each other, Wisconsin would beat them? For sure? All right, so here's my take on that.
Bold prediction on Twitter.
I think
Follow
if you look at how Georgia is, I don't think they're overrated. I would disagree with that. I think the way their rushing attack is, Nick Chubb and Sonny Ely, the way they've been playing, Auburn held them to 46 yards on the ground, something low like that. They're averaging over 250 for the season. That's how good of an offense that this team has. Yes, they have one bad game and you're going to dump them away already. When a team has a good rushing attack like that and a two-headed monster like that, they're always successful in college. It just seems to work that way. If you could run the ball well in college, your team's usually pretty good. So I would disagree with that. I don't think Wisconsin's bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just think Georgia's a better team, even though they have a loss and Wisconsin's undefeated.
Shooting over to Alabama and Mississippi State. Guys, this game was one that we were discussing a couple weeks back, and all of us said that Mississippi State was the one team on Alabama's schedule that would give them some trouble, and that was obviously the case. Alabama squeezes one out, 31-24.
We did say that, and you know what? It was very funny because it was actually Mike, and I'm going to give Mike all that credit. Mike and Rodney, actually, and I don't believe I was a part of that. So Mike and Rod, that was very good of you guys, or very smart of you guys to say that. Michigan State was the team to give them problems, and guess what? They gave them problems. They almost lost. And they almost lost that one seed as well. If they would have lost, they would have definitely, in my eyes, dropped. I think they would be at the bottom two, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, we did talk about Mississippi State being the one team that could really give Alabama a run for their money, and you're right, Joey. Alabama pulled one out. I give them a lot of credit, this Alabama team, because they're top recruits. These are all the whole Alabama team are top football players.
They're basically NFL players already.
It's ridiculous the amount of talent. So we talk about Mississippi State and some of the guys that they have, and I feel like they always seem to play Alabama tough. It could just be state location-wise that they have the rivalry there, the SEC.
Well,
I always
then
see.
you can make an argument for the Iron Bowl with Auburn and Alabama, but go on.
So you see the rivalry there, and look, for me, the Bama team, even if they did lose, I still think they're the best team in the country. I look at the talent that they have, and I look at Jalen Hurts, and I think he's just what they need at quarterback, a game manager, nothing more than that. And that's how this team has been winning, with that stout defense and someone who could control the ball as the quarterback. But I also want to mention the receiving by Ridley for Alabama, and he had 5 receptions, 171 yards. He was all over the place. That guy, it could not slow him down or stop him, Mississippi State, and he really helped them. Look, Bama, I still think they're going to win. I don't think there's a team that can beat Bama, even the top teams in the poll rankings.
Let's talk about my beloved Fighting Irish.
That too. Rod, your thoughts on Bama?
Rod, that was my bad on kind of interrupting your little showtime.
Leaving him out of that one.
Yeah, it's my Fighting Irish. I'm still having nightmares about that whole game. But guys, Miami put an absolute beatdown on my beloved Fighting Irish. Hard to watch. That chain is doing something for that team. What do you have to say?
Alec, you may want to pick a new team because that was a pathetic performance, and that may have been.
What about Josh Adams, Alec? What
My
happened with
goodness!
him?
I want to hear.
What happened?
Time out. I want to hear Alec's thoughts to this. Cut me, Mike, and Rod out of this. I want to hear the moderator's thoughts about this with his Fighting Irish.
All right, Josh Adams. He was my sleeper all season.
Okay. The sleeper Heisman running.
No, that's
I mean,
what I'm
this
saying.
is-
No one's been talking about him.
No
for
one
Heisman.
has. He hasn't been getting the love.
Exactly, and
I don't think the entire
I
team
don't-
has been getting love. Hence, 8 points on the.
yeah,
on
I
the-
don't
go
think
on.
that's gonna really solve the case, his case for Heisman after that beatdown. But
Came into the game averaging
16
9
attempts.
yards a carry.
And he had 40 yards total. His longest was 12 on 16 carries.
and Ed
Yikes.
Reed before that game, giving his little pregame speech, and I don't know if you guys saw Notre Dame's little pregame speech, but they were ready to do
I
something.
did not.
They were ready to get that chain. They were ready to end that whole
There was-
thing. They were ready to.
Yeah, like what
Did you
Alex
see
was
it?
saying, there was a lot of hype going
Yeah.
into the game. Both teams were convinced that they were going to take it. And next thing you knew, Notre Dame misses that big throw early in the game, and from there on out, Miami just took over from there.
This game,
27 nothing at halftime. The U is back, baby. I mean, we got to watch the U when we were younger, the early 2000s, with
Yeah.
all those talented players on defense, and they're back. I mean, they kept getting turnovers. They were stopping Josh Adams running the ball. They did everything that you wanted them to do defensively. Look, they weren't getting credit up until this moment, and I think this just shows that the U is back. Pretender, contender, pretender for me, for sure.
Rod, what do you think?
Well, and it's very funny that you say that because with in the AP poll, 4 AP writers had Miami at number 1 on the AP poll, but then the other 57, obviously with brains in their head, had Alabama at number 1. So that was pretty good. Obviously, like I said, I'm not throwing shade at any of the AP writers, but I mean, listen, I think if Miami and Alabama played each other, I think Alabama still has the hot hand for sure. They would come out on top, Alec.
I want to bring a little game to be on the game.
Oh, okay. I like this.
It's called the Contender or Pretender game,
Ooh,
guys.
yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, I've never heard of this one before.
I know it's a little different, but I'm going to be naming some NCAA football teams, and you just simply tell me if they're contender or pretender. Are you guys ready?
Let's do this.
All right. First up, we have Georgia. Mike, what do you think?
Contender. I said before I needed to say about Nick Chubb in that offense.
Joey?
I'll still give them contender, but if they slip up again, it'll change to pretender. But right now, on this show, number 22, contender.
And Rod, what about you?
Whoa!
We saw that one coming.
And one more thing. One more team.
Timeout.
What?
Your thought.
Oh.
Your thought. You're a part of this show as well. What's wrong with you? Stop it.
Let's see. I mean, they definitely have turned it around. Definitely made their way, like, made them known again from years past, because they kind of slipped off, I feel, after the whole Matt Stafford era and all that, but I have to go Pretender in this case. I have to. Yeah. Next up,
Okay.
we have Michigan State.
Oof.
Joey, I know you have a word on this one.
Please, I don't even know where to begin with that. It's an easy pretender. Okay, they were, if I'm not mistaken, let me check and see their poll from last week. Last week they were, hold on, I'll tell you in just a moment. I did not pull that up right away, which I should have. They were number 12. They were number 12 when they lost to Ohio State, and now they are, I believe, 22. Easy pretender to me.
Yeah, I'm going Pretender also. Look, they beat Penn State. Yeah, whoop-de-doo. You stopped the one thing that got Penn State going, which is that read option ability between the quarterback and Saquon Barkley. But then to watch Ohio State win the way they won against Michigan State, and I don't even think Ohio State's all that great, Pretender for me.
Rodney, what do you have to say? Not only getting absolutely smacked by Ohio State, they even lost in overtime to Northwestern. We cannot forget about that loss.
That's true. I did forget about that, actually.
Complete pretender, in my opinion, and one more team. Guys, give me your opinions on this Miami team. Pretenders or contenders?
This is the easiest one. No doubt that Rod and I have said it. The U is back. They're contenders 100%.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with contender. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, leave it at that. I gotta say contender too. This defense has been out of this world this season, and like I said before, that chain is bringing some mojo back to the U. We're gonna be shooting over to a quick short break, but when we get back, Eric Bledsoe is traded to Milwaukee. Now, does Milwaukee have their own big three in Giannis, Bledsoe, and Chris Middleton? We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Beyond the Game, episode number 22. Little breaking news in the MLB world. It's a bit of a sad day today, as Carlos Beltran finally retired after his 20-year MLB career. Phenomenal man, phenomenal career in general. Joey, anything you want to add to Carlos Beltran's significant tenure?
Yeah, I'm sure Mets fans are happy. 2006, obviously, looking strikeout against the Cardinals. I'm sorry, Rod, I had to bring that up, but definitely that one will live in infamy forever. Something else, something that we mentioned over the break, Alec. He is the last person in backyard baseball, and that really shows my age. Alec, you are still a baby.
I still play it to this day.
You still play to this day, but you are still a baby, and that came out way before your time.
Same. I still play too.
I mean,
it's a good game. If you have the computer
really
that supports it, humongous games
and,
made a good one.
And not only that, too, Rodney Harris is obviously the oldest one out of the four of us here, so he definitely has some words about Beltran and backyard baseball, of course. Yeah, but still an amazing career.
He's a guy that's going to be dearly missed in the Major League Baseball committee. Guys, moving over to the NBA, Eric Bledsoe traded to Milwaukee. Do you guys think that the Bucks are for real this year?
No. Rodney Harris. It's true. It's true, and something else, and something that I want to bring up is that they also have on their roster Jabari Parker, who's coming back, or if I'm not mistaken, Rod, came back from an ACL injury. They have him. They also have Matthew Dellavedova, who really I don't really speak much about him. The famous Mirza Teletovic from the Brooklyn Nets. Oh my goodness, I don't even know where to begin with that. And then Jason Terry, the ageless wonder, Jason Terry. They have him. I'm gonna stick with Rod, exactly what he said. I think that with Giannis and Eric Bledsoe is huge, a 1-2 punch, but I don't think that the chemistry is there just yet. I think that they will be better down the stretch, but I think it's just going to be a little too late. Even though they started 0-3, they won their last two. They have Memphis tonight in Milwaukee at the Harris Center. Mike Slavin.
Yeah, I think they go as far as Giannis takes them. It comes down to that. I mean, he's been a phenomenal talent. Now you add Eric Bledsoe to the equation. And after that game they played against the Spurs in his first game with the team, Giannis said playing with Bledsoe was easy. Well, if that guy can play as well as he could play without Bledsoe, having someone who can pass him the ball and take pressure off of him, score some points, this team can be good. Now, look, they're not going to be great, and I think it's going to take time for the chemistry to really develop between the two. But those are some solid pieces they have there, not to mention some of the other players on the team. Parker, another young, talented guy. They could really make some sort of push later in the season, get themselves in position to be a contender next year. But right now, like you guys said, I'm not convinced that they're as good as they could. I don't think they've began to hit the potential that they can possibly have. It took me way too long to get that out.
To finish your thought, and that's okay. To finish your thought,
Junior.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, Billy Madison stuff. They're not on the same level as the Celtics, the Wizards, the Raptors, and the Cavs. They're not. They're definitely not on the same wavelength as that. But who knows? We'll see what happens. It's very possible that they just as well could be at 6-6 right now. Things can happen. Things can definitely happen. A lot of movement. It's we're only about a month into the season. Alec, what did Eric Monroe or Eric? Sorry, I kind of flip that around a little bit. Greg Monroe going to Phoenix. I want to hear your thoughts about the return that Phoenix got, because they have just been so bad in recent years.
Yeah, especially after losing Bledsoe too. Kind of taking away their leading point guard, and you bring back in Monroe. I mean, it is a good, acquiring him, but it's definitely not a game changer in any sense.
And he's also injured as well.
Yeah, so that really does nothing. He's a good player. When he gets back, he'll be pretty solid. But
with Devin Booker, yeah.
With Devin Booker, right? That little duo they got. But really don't see anything special happening. But the Suns, they released some information. They're actually kind of interested in Jahlil Okafor. But with the signing of Greg Monroe now, do you see any potential trade or acquiring Okafor for the Suns in the future?
You know what? Listen, this all comes back to Tyson Chandler. Because Tyson Chandler signed a monstrous deal, as did Jared Dudley. Rod, you know this, $13 million a year for Tyson Chandler. I mean, the man is a back end. My goodness, he's been on the back end ever since he was on the Knicks. My goodness, and then once he was traded from the Knicks on Dallas, he got that monstrous deal in Phoenix. Jared Dudley, he has been a career journeyman who has been a utility guy. He's not worth $10 million. And then Brandon Knight, for instance, he has $13 million. What is this team? I'm very confused as to what this team is doing as far as signing these players. Yes, they just traded for Greg Monroe, his $17 million contract, almost $18 million. But you know what? I just think that this Suns team has one big question mark around them. They do not know the direction that they're moving in. And ever since Steve Nash era has ended, This team has been in complete influx.
So Jahlil Okafor, we all know, has been on this trade block for over a year, ever since Embiid came back and provided all that talent and scoring for Philadelphia. But my question is, if Monroe in Phoenix is short-lived, is he an asset that they could use, Rodney, to try to acquire Okafor from Philly?
Well,
Rod,
hold
we
on.
believe you, but does Okafor even get traded at the rate? I mean, it's looked like they're just
That's
struggling to
the thing.
find someone
No,
to even
but-
trade him to.
and I just want to mention one thing,
So-
Rod, before you answer Mike's question. And I'm sure that I'm probably interrupting you in answering the question, but the longer Jahlil Okafor sits and doesn't play, every minute and every second that goes by, his trade value is going farther and farther and farther down.
And
Why?
He's worthless.
And why? And why? Because he's sitting there getting rusty and sleeping.
He'll be the
he's
tin
not-
man by the time he gets back
That's
on the
what
court.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
He may not even, and they were even saying too, is that there have been people I've been following on Twitter and following on TV and stuff like that. If he does not get traded by the deadline, there is a possibility where he may be inactive on game nights. That's a problem for that talent to just sit there and not do a single thing. Well, listen, it's.
All right, Rod, I'm gonna
we'll
hold you
see.
to it.
We might have to hold you to it, Rod, because you know what? if the Sixers are asking for way too much, he's
He's
just
not
going to
going
sit there.
anywhere. Yeah,
He's not
he's
going to
gonna
go
just sit there and
anywhere,
rust.
and they're not going to find a trade partner for that. It's not good, Rod. I want to hear your thoughts. And he's only getting paid $5 million a year, so they're not really. It's not a lot that the return would have to be. So, exactly to your point, Rod, is that they're not going to get a lot back for him if they continue this way. And you know what? Looking at the Sixers' contracts here, they have signed a lot of veteran talent over in the offseason. J.J. Redick is their highest paid player, $23 million a year. Oh my goodness. Well, that's a whole nother story. Yeah.
Guys, to end that NBA conversation, it's Monday, and you know what that means? We got some Monday night football tonight between the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins in Carolina. So I got to ask the question, who are you guys taking tonight?
Carolina 24-13.
I'm going to take Carolina 35-17.
That's too. Wow, my
Wow, okay.
goodness. So hold on, and before you get to this,
Blowout.
that's even with T.J. McDonald back in that safety, in that safety role,
Blowout.
even without Kelvin Benjamin.
Superman has come alive slightly for Cam Newton, and I think Christian McCaffrey is going to give this Miami defense a lot of problems.
Rodney Harris.
Wow. I got to take Carolina as well. 27-17. I'm playing McCaffrey against McCaffrey in fantasy, but I just don't see him being slowed down whatsoever. Guys, that's going to do it for us today on Beyond the Game, episode number 22. Make sure to tune in on Mondays from 11 to 1 for more around the world sports talk. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Beyond the Game 4 and Facebook at Beyond the Game Radio for updates on next week's show. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.